recognizing a communist, physical appearance counts for nothing. If a person defends the activities of communist nations while consistently attacking the domestic and foreign policy of the United States, she may be a communist. But there are other communists who don't show their real faces, who work more silently.
I suppose what's inescapable behind the racist ideology is fear, terror, this sort of quaking neurosis, this desperation to cling on to something that probably never even really existed.
To give you a better picture of Islam, take a look at where concentrations of Muslims exist around the world. Islam is growing in some of the most strategic places in the world.
It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, requiring a full retaliatory response upon the Soviet Union.
In the Netherlands, Theo van Gogh, a Dutch filmmaker, produced an expose on the abuse of women in Islam.
The film's director, Theo van Gogh, was murdered, his throat slit. A note threatening Hirsi Ali stuck to his chest.
Do you feel in danger?
Yeah, I feel in danger from those individuals who think they will go to heaven by killing an apostate.
He was later shot, stabbed to death as he rode a bicycle through Amsterdam. His head nearly severed from his neck and 2 knives left stuck in his body.
I call upon Chairman Krushoff to halt and eliminate this clandestine, reckless, and provocative threat to world peace and to stable relations between our two nations.
Nobody is allowed to give him the right under the freedom of expression to speak as badly and as nasty by picture and by word as we have seen in this 12-minute documentary.
Therein lies the issue of the threat of militant Islam, the anointed right to carry out executions of anybody who is considered a threat to Islam itself.
There's no point reacting to them with anger, is there? Because that means you've got something all horrible and angry, and then you react to it with horrible angriness. That's just more horrible angry.
يجب أن يفهم الأمريكيون أنهم باعتدائهم على العتبات المقدسة إنما يعتدون على كل المسلمين في العالم.
The Islamists hate everything other than what they are themselves. They killed, for example, over 100,000 Algerians who disagreed with their brand of Islam. These are fellow Muslims.
There is a particular strand of Islam that has, in fact, challenged what I think is the absolutely central pillar of human civilization as such, namely the sacredness of life itself.
Islam is not just another belief system which is at conflict with America or Christianity. It's not just a set of superstitions or practices that people do in the privacy of their own homes that never bother anyone else. Islam, instead, is a faith that fully intends to conquer the world, and it cannot be ignored.
I was going to rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lennox is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
In the Quran, there are over 90 different names for Allah. Over 90 different names for Allah. None of them are love.
The Muslims believe in the God that created the universe, and I think the Christians do, and the Jews do. Now, as long as all of them are talking about the Creator, the Jews may call him Jehovah, and Christians may have another name for him. Those who are Arabic speaking refer to him as Allah. Well, we believe in the same God.
I will rail against the idea that the God of Christianity and the God of Islam are the same being.
There is an indefinable, mysterious power that pervades everything. I feel it, though I do not see it. It is this unseen power which makes itself felt, and yet defies all proof, because it is so unlike all that I perceive through my senses. It transcends the senses. We know that people do not know who rules or why and how he rules, and yet they know that there is a power that certainly rules.
The times in which we live has seen an increasing emphasis on multiculturalism and multinationalism. We are told that sovereign nations must submit to international organizations in order for everyone to live in peace and harmony.
I was born about a quarter of a mile from where we're sitting now, and I was here in London during the Blitz. And every night I went down to the shelter, 500 people killed, my brother was killed, my friends were killed. And when the Charter of the UN was read to me, I was a pilot coming home in a troop ship. We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has caused untold suffering to mankind. That was the pledge my generation gave to the younger generation, and they tore it up. And it's a war crime that's been committed in Iraq, because there's no moral difference. There's no moral difference between a stealth bomber and a suicide bomber. Both kill innocent people for political reasons.
For those who don't have any faith, let me tell you, what they're going to do to you will be more horrible than anything you can imagine. And you'd better understand that Christianity is the way to freedom and not to slavery.
David Livingstone was one in a long line of European missionaries who dedicated their lives to bringing Western Christianity to the so-called dark continents of the world. But this great missionary enterprise was part of a huge colonial venture, one which often brutally exploited peoples across the world. That history is part of my family history.
Doing it that way made the USA the richest country in the world.
And as a result, they were introduced to Christianity.
Christianity is the way to freedom and not to slavery. This other thing is the way to slavery, not freedom.
Politics is the art or science of governing people and governing society. What's the best way to live? How do we live in harmony? That's what we're looking for.
As Joe Louis found himself drafted to be the symbol of democracy in America, Schmeling found himself conscripted to be the symbol of Aryan supremacy. They were prisoners of politics.
He could not be seen in public with white women. He had to be seen as a Bible-reading, mother-loving, God-fearing individual, and not to be too black.
He was loyal to his government, but his loyalty had a high price. He had to burden his conscience with the dark sides of the regime.
Now, we must be ready for a new danger.
In the background was the growing struggle between two great powers to shape the post-war world.
An evil so pervasive that the whole society had to be mobilized to combat it.
And now it is the Russians just standing there. The Russians trying to intimidate Greece. And the leader throws the right hand and staggers free to the right Khrushchev. Under the right position.
I cannot be defeated. I defeat all man. I defeat the real champion. And if he dies, he dies.
Already an iron curtain had dropped around Poland, Hungary, Yugoslavia.
Everyone from vets to youngsters reveals his inborn dislike of communism. A united answer to those menacing our country's liberty.
In fact, we may be already losing the battle. As I scan the world, I find that Islam at this moment is responsible for more pain, more bloodshed, more devastation than nearly any other force on earth.
Watch carefully what happens to an editor who operates under a free press. He goes to jail too, and his newspaper is confiscated. It can't happen here? Well, this is what it looks like if it should.